Hello, and welcome to the week 4 video lecture for this course. The video lecture this week will discuss audience reception. Usually we discuss one of the more central literary topics, but instead, I want you to review on your own the supplemental slideshows embedded in the modules because those have film and TV clips as well. And it's easier for you to just go over that on your own. However, we're going to review audience reception because it's a major part of one of your assignments this week. And this video lecture will help you better understand why it's important. So we'll review all of this stuff on screen and to include screenshots of what is audience reception and how do you apply it to project one. Consider audience reception as just another interpretive lens. A rift between traditional criticism and popular receptions of media raises a key issue regarding the use of film criticism in reception studies. More specifically, to what extent can the critic's views be taken as representative? In the age of new media citizenship, or some of my colleagues might call it new media, it's really just social media, and the ethics of performativity, this question may be extended to revise and re-envision the very function of the critic, getting to the heart of contemporary reception studies. Audiences bring their perceptions, experiences, and reactions to works, which inexorably brings continuous change through new meaning as these meanings are reconstructed. Thus, the interactive nature of an online audience does not leave the author as the sole producer of meaning. Instead, a dynamic relationship between said audience and narratives collaborates in making new meaning as new readers engage with the work. Though audiences are not a new constraint on creative content, online audiences now increasingly communicate demands on writers to shape productions. The reach and effectiveness of such demands is, in part, the result of social media platforms that allow for opinions to quickly spread and gather mainstream attention among news outlets and critics. This dynamic relationship between creators, audiences, and critics can help boost or sink content. Although creators and commercial distributors have always considered online desires to some degree, the online visibility of contemporary audience feedback regularly impacts modern entertainment. And as we can see on the screen, it even impacts books. I'm sure you've seen a TV show get canceled or pulled, or like we saw with that film, The Hunt, when Trump sent out a tweet because he didn't like the film. The film was shelved for a while. But more recently, we see this kind of backlash, cancel, quote unquote, a work of a book. The amplification of user sentiment advocates at times effectively for increased diversity and inclusion in media. The relationship between media and audience reception has evolved, creating a modern landscape that sometimes includes culture and diversity as a result. How does audience reception fit in with Project One? I'm sure you're wondering that. As part of Project One, choose one story that we've read these last few weeks, then analyze one character from that work in this 3 to 5 page essay. You're required to have at least 3 subtopics, and you can pick any concept about the character to discuss. As part of your analysis in one of these subtopics, you're also required to include a screen grab of primary research. This primary research should be a screen grab of sentiment or how the audience is feeling concerning this character. And what would be most ideal is if this screen grab is in reference to one of your subtopics. For example, if one of your subtopics is about the character's development, find a screen grab from social media or a review site discussing this very concept to back up or refute a point you're making about one of your stories. label the screen grab with a caption starting with figure 1 and all of the other sort of information that you see on the screen in that caption. So for this class, primary research is called online observation, and it's easier than it sounds. It's not intimidating at all because it merely means you review an online site where users are discussing your story, then screen grab a relevant post and include this screen grab as a source to discuss in your essay. And you can find screen grabs from several sites. If your story is a book, here are some suggestions on the screen. Forgive the blurriness. If your story that you want to get a screen grab for is a film or TV show, here are some suggestions to find online observations of how users, informal users, and critics are feeling about the show or TV or film, sorry. You're only required to have one screen grab in your paper that's due this week. That means you don't have to find a screen grab for you don't have to find more than one. So maybe you find a screen grab for a TV show. However, any screen grab you find should be relevant to an aspect of the story that you're including in the paper. And if you're discussing some component of character development, the post you should find from social media or a review site should discuss this about your character or story in some way. The post should again be disputing or backing up one of your main points about your character in the story in your essay. And again, forgive the blurriness. You must properly caption and discuss the relevance of the screen grab or figure 1 in the body of your paper. Then use the phrase figure 1 in the body of your paper to point out the relationship between the figure and the point that you're making in the text of your essay. Avoid including the figure, the screen grab, at the end or beginning of your paper because this seems unplanned and it's not really the look that you want. For the purposes of this assignment and placing the informal everyday critic or online audiences in context with your work, excuse me, audience reception for Project 1 refers only to social media or informal review sites. There's a handout link in the modules that you can access with more examples of what kind of sites are relevant to this assignment. If you find a similar like discussion board or a website where average viewers are discussing your work, that will also work for Project 1. We'll refer to this as online observation, as I mentioned before, almost as if you were collecting user sentiment or how audiences feel via a survey. If it's a website article or a podcast where the story is being critiqued, this is considered a secondary source and will not satisfy your primary research or audience reception requirement for Project 1. Consider, have you ever left a comment or a review about a work online? That means you are an informal critic. Words are really hard this video lecture. Then, if you are that sort of informal critic, you're part of the online audience creating discourse about stories. Through this discourse, you're building meaning and multiple narratives, and you're re-understanding what the story could mean. Reviewing one tweet or Reddit post doesn't mean that you're speaking for an entire audience and how they feel, but because online audiences are now a sort of informal critic, you're referring to this informal discourse as another way to back up or refute a point that you're making. In a very meta way, you're maybe becoming aware that you're an informal critic too, simply by reviewing two stories for this project. Or I'm sorry, one story for this project, and that you're expanding upon your own critique with the help of another informal critic. Is the screen grab from Reddit as valuable as another academic source? It's really up for debate. However, by including a screen grab, you're acknowledging the various perspectives and understanding your character and the story choice for your essay. Creativity and authorship are always about reception and pleasing the audience. In a networked social media age, the audience simply has more immediate and wide-reaching means to make their perspectives heard. Thus, go and find a social media perspective to assist your analysis during Project 1. If I've said Project 2 at any point, I'm just a little sleep deprived because this is for Project 1. So return to the module and start drafting a character plus social media analysis based on a story reviewed from the past few weeks. Reach out with any questions about this and consider, does any critique of a story matter and how that's integral to Project 1 and including your online observation of how one other audience member feels about your character and about your story.